All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started because we have got so much fun content to cover today. And I have a very special guest that I will introduce momentarily. But welcome to Magnet Culture's Workforce Webinar. We are so happy that you're here today. And my name is Cara Silletto. I'm the president, founder, and chief retention officer here at Magnet Culture. And we are today going to talk about finding more time to lead. Um, I am not an AI expert, but I've brought my friend Holly in so that we can talk about how some AI tools can help managers stay connected to their front line. From a retention standpoint, I always get told that I just don't have time, Kara. I know I need to check in with my people. I know I need to do some team building and more check-ins and all that, but it's just not in the cards for my day. So we wanted to tap into some tools and thoughts around AI that can hopefully give you your time back. So if this is your first webinar with us, we are so glad that you're here. You can check out magnetculture.com and all of our information about the training programs and retention retreats that we offer for organizations to help those leaders become retention champions. That's what we're working on. And we are going to help you get your head back above water. That's our goal here. So today, the conversation again is around AI. We want you to be able to be more present with your people if possible. So we're going to give you some tips and tricks around that. And believe it or not, I was just looking at our history the other day. I taught our first AI class, our first AI webinar, just introducing, it was when ChatGPT had become free and available to the world. And that was 3 years ago, y'all, right? Holly's got it. So 3 years ago, we started this conversation, at least here at Magnet, and it has come a long, long way. And yet, most people still are not super comfortable, super confident, and super innovative in the ways that they are doing that. So it's not a new topic or a new tool necessarily, but we continue to see it evolve, and we have to dive deeper and figure out some new ways to do this. So remember that all of our webinars are recorded and will be available at magnetculture.com/webinars. So that's in the chat there for you. And then also our YouTube page. I'm going to grab that for you. I got the link on there. There we go. So also on our website, the webinars page has it, and you can subscribe to our YouTube page if you haven't already. That way, anytime we do a webinar or another video, you'll be notified when that new content is available. So this video will be up in a few days, and then you can send it out to your leadership team or whomever you want to share it with. All right. If you have questions today, just put those in the Q&A box down at the bottom. And of course, you can use the chat as well if you want to give us your comments throughout this time together today. Also, stick around till the end because we have a special offer for those of you who are on our live call today and who stick around till the end. So you don't want to miss that. All right. So, as I said, the reason we're talking about AI today is because managers continue to tell me in all of our training workshops that they are just too busy to lead the way they should, the way they know how, right? And so I have brought in our newest trainer on our team. I'm so excited. She's been a trainer for a long time. She's not new to training, she's just new to us. But the magnificent speaker, trainer, facilitator, Holly Hartman. And she is not only great at helping our clients reduce turnover, but Holly has another gig. And Holly also works outside of Magnet Culture, specifically helping companies move from what she calls AI anxious to AI ready. And she helps them put guardrails and governance in place so that they can have a responsible AI strategy for their organization. So, welcome, Holly. I'll finally pass it over to you to say hello.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here, and I love seeing all the people in the chat already, and I just can't wait to get into the conversation. Thanks.
Yes, awesome. All right, so I do want to take a little poll. So put in the chat here. There's a chat button down at the bottom, or you can just think about this. It can be a rhetorical question if you don't want to answer today, but where are you on your AI journey? So if a one is not using it or barely touched it, to a 5 is I'm teaching others and I'm leading the cause, right? Leading the pack at my organization. Where are you all? From a 1 barely using to a 5, I'm on the cutting edge. I'm doing that. So let us know where you're at. I think a lot of us are in that 2 to 3 range. That's where I'm seeing that here. So good times. Keep those numbers coming in, and that'll help me and Holly also get a handle on kind of where you're at today. So, Holly, let's get started here with. I want to start first before we get into uses about the principles, this word responsibly and ethically. So I assume that and you even teach some principles that we need to consider first about responsible use. So, what do you encourage users to keep top of mind when they're starting to use these new tools?
Yeah, thank you, Cara. I really appreciate it. The responsible AI use, there's at least five. There's more than that, but we're going to touch on five of them today. But the first one that I find is just really important, especially if you're working in highly regulated organizations, and um, responsible AI is really important. And the first one is protect privacy. And
Yeah.
you've heard that probably in many areas of your career and what you all do, but this is even more stringent when you're using AI. And then so looking at, don't enter the full names of clients that you work with, or residents, or people that your patients. No personal details, and
Yeah.
because they can go grab from different messages, even if you think it's only in one message. And then any identifying information that is not already public information. So just protect the privacy of the people that of the data that you're putting in.
And your own company too. Just, if you can, a lot of companies are saying don't put our company name in, just put the drafted message, or, maybe the job description, but not with that company header up at the top, for example, right? So just thinking about what that identifying information is. I know I tell my son, he has a YouTube page, and I tell him, don't ever say anything that would tell people where we live, you know like any identifying information. So think about that when you're doing AI, is just what would be identifying information that you want to try to keep out of there.
Absolutely. The next one is own what comes out. So this is what you're the responsible one. Before it puts out into public, you have to first review what it shares. Then you need to verify it. And then you need to use your own judgment, like critical thinking around, is this correct? And cross reference math and all of those things. Don't assume the first output is going to be the thing you put out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And then the third one is know what you're feeding it. So meaning whatever tool that you're using, you need to be aware of what they're doing with your data. Oftentimes, software has the default on training the model. So if that's the case, then it absolutely is going out into public access. But if you're using an enterprise model, meaning your company is paid for it and it has it secure, you need to know what tools are available to you or not available to you before you start inputting data in. Some have a little bit more safety measures than others, and that's just something important to know.
Yeah. That, I think, I just want to bring up the difference between, a lot of us are logged in to our systems as our work email and our personal email. And if you're using a tool, you might need to remember, which one am I logged in as? Because maybe your work function, the work tool, is covered and is closed down and protected. But if you start putting information accidentally in your personal check logged in, tool, ChatGPT or others, then that could be a problem, right? So just be aware of which one you're putting it in.
Absolutely. Microsoft Copilot's really easy to do that because they look the same. So really making sure that you're checking that. And Google Gemini is starting to shift where it looks very similar. So
Hmm.
absolutely, it's important to do. But Microsoft 360 Copilot has definitely confused a lot of people. So I think it's important to note. The other thing is keep the humans involved. So this is number four. AI can inform, but it should not decide on its own, meaning you're giving it full autonomy on making your decisions. We need to keep, another trainer friend of mine calls it, keep it on the loop instead of in the loop, meaning you really have the handle on what it's going to be doing before it gets out in the public, whether it's an email, whether it's the data that you're using to make decisions. You have to
Mm.
keep yourself in the loop or on the loop, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yes. And that makes me think real quickly. Another basic about AI is this difference between generative AI and agentic AI. So, generative AI is where it's generating more knowledge, it's learning from itself and getting smarter. Agentic is, think of the word agent, where it does the work for you. You're telling it to go do this. And that's where Holly's saying, keep the human involved. Right now, very little, very few people are able to really set agentic models to just go and do it without me. That takes a much higher level of expertise and prompting and training and all of that as well. So definitely double check everything that you're getting out of it, but it can still save you time. I know it sounds a little silly of, well, it sounds like this isn't going to save me any time. A friend of mine mentioned recently a 20-60-20 rule. 20% of the time should be you telling it what to do and prompting, giving it the instructions. 60% of the time should be it doing the work, drafting it for you, brainstorming for you, helping you move it forward. And then 20% is you editing it and tweaking it and double checking it before it goes out the door. So you can still save a lot of time, even if you're going to keep the human involved. But it does take that extra eye for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it very rarely do I see a start to finish being 100%, like right off the bat. It's generally 50 to 80%. that
Yes,
that saved you a tremendous amount of time to then move the needle and really use your expertise. And that's where we save what we're doing and keep ourselves in the workforce, is that we are so needed with our expertise, and keep bringing that so we bring value. The last
right.
thing is think critically. That's the number 5. We've kind of woven it into what we've talked about a little bit here before, but AI can be confidently wrong, meaning hallucination. If you've never heard that term, that's what
Yeah.
it's called, when it will say, that is absolutely the figure. And then you go do the simple math. You're like, no, it's not. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, my bad. It's this number. You're like, but it's not. That's a hallucination, right? So we can't just assume that every output is correct. We really need to verify and then keep our critical thinking lens and what made you an expert in what you do.
Yeah.
That's really important in this.
Absolutely. That's also important. Good place to start. Now, before we get to the uses again, I want to talk about the tools, because a lot of people are saying, well, which one should I use? They hear all these terms, and there are some completely separate AI tools, like ChatGPT was kind of the first on the block that everybody got access to, got comfortable with. Now, a lot of people use Claude, Claude, or Perplexity if they're doing research and things. A lot of folks now have these note takers, Otter AI, and lots of different AI tools for that. That some of the tools are just AI, where you go in and tell it what to do or ask it questions and give it that instruction. But then there's also AI built into a lot of our tools. So Holly already mentioned Copilot. If you're using any Microsoft systems, Microsoft Excel, Word, PowerPoint, they now have built in the Copilot feature where you can tell it to automatically make this column of formulas without having to know how to make a formula. You can just tell Copilot, I need column A and C to add up, but minus D if D is this. You can put in if then statements and whatnot, and then it's going to create those formulas for you. Like she said, you need to double check it and make sure, do, some sample testing and make sure that it got that formula right. And it will get better and better and smarter over time. So I've definitely seen my tools get better at understanding what I want and reading me. And so you may be using HR systems like Workday or a Paycor, Paylocity, those kind of systems that are also now putting some AI tools in there. And I've even heard, for a lot of my senior care friends who might be on the call today, systems like Point Click Care and those healthcare systems and documentation systems are also starting to put AI in there, not just for, sometimes it'll fill in blanks for you or help assume what you're going to say to save you time, which is great. Also, a lot of it is for the analytics they're getting to better reporting, better trending information, telling us those types of data as well. So that's exciting. So for Holly, on your end, what are your thoughts when people say like, well, which tool should I use?
Yeah, I do analogy first. I share it. So when I was younger, I would take a trip to Florida, and before I went, I get one of those AAA triptychs and make sure that I had all of my AAA intact because I didn't want to be stuck on the side of the road going, I don't know what to do. I don't know where I need to go. So I have a AAA method is what I teach others. And the first A is assess. Really, what that means is what problem are you trying to solve? And AI
Mhm.
does best when you're really hyper focused and specific on the problem, not like I need this broad thing to be fixed. It's more like teaching a child how to tie their shoe. What's the first step? So what's the problem you're trying to solve? So you assess that first, and then you anchor, meaning you look at the tool that's going to best fit that. And as Cara just shared, each tool is different in what it uses. Some software already has it in it. So before you go find the next shiny egg, look and see if the tools that you already have in your tech stack already have it. You may have that already. Also
Yes.
assess whether your where you work has policies in place on whether you can use it or not. You don't want to verge into what we call shadow AI. It's not the ask for permission later kind of thing. It's more of a really making sure that you have that coverage. So you're going to assess the situation along with the tools that you have or what you need to bring in. Like maybe you want to build a slide deck for a presentation, or you want to do data analytics, something, but you have to get clarification on what the data has or access they have for data. And then once you
Yeah.
have that information, make one small act with that tool, test it out, see if it's going to solve the problem before you heavily invest time and energy into it, and then just keep iterating after that. So the AAA is you're going to first anchor, oh no, assess, anchor, and act. Assess, anchor, and act. That's the best thing I can say for anybody that is trying to explore anything, whether it's personal or professional.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to this idea of what do you already have access to? Because you really want to be using the paid versions of most of these because that is more private. It does not train the massive model on the things you're putting in. It kind of keeps your information in your world. And so if you already have Microsoft, then Copilot is right there. If you are operating off of Gmail, which is our company does that, so we use Gemini for everything. And I'm so excited. Android Auto, now I don't know if CarPlay is doing this too, but Android Auto now has Gemini built in. So when I was driving home from a gig yesterday, I could talk to my Gemini as either a thought partner or to tell it to do things like, hey, help me draft this or email me this reminder and things like that, which was really cool. They're going to be incorporating it into the tools and access you already have. But yeah, so really, I think for any of you who are a beginner, maybe a one or two, maybe a three on our scale that we talked about earlier, is just look at the AI functions in the tools you already have. And if you're like me, I get emails from those providers saying, here's what the AI does now. Or you can go in and ask the AI, what do you do? How can you help me? I'm new to this. I'm learning. So that's a great way to do that as well. So, okay, well, enough on the principles and choosing your tools and whatnot, but what is it that people can do to save time? For me, one thing that comes to mind is I've been teaching for a while to around retention strategies, right? We encourage leaders, for example, to appreciate their team more. Well, I don't have time to sit and think like, how can I appreciate my people without a budget? You know, and so you can absolutely have it brainstorm some ideas for you. I have no budget or I have this many dollars for this many people. What are some unique ways that I could step up my opportunities for recognition and things like that for my team? That we've been teaching for a while, the stepping stones. So if you all follow our retention work, you know that we teach kind of micro promotions, stepping stones, CNA level one, CNA level two, CNA level three, or a technician one, technician two, technician three. And you have to come up with new job descriptions for that. And then what is the pay difference going to look like if you can get it approved company wide? So you can have it build out career ladders. I've even seen some companies that are building out from new hire to executive. What are potential career ladders that you can show to the recruits to get them to be more interested in a long-term career for your organization? So those opportunities for advancement, also the incentives. Some of you know that we teach about the little baby carrots instead of one big long carrot on a stick that people just get rewarded once a year with more pay or PTO or whatnot. We put little baby carrots like thank you notes and access to a mentor or become a mentor or access to tuition reimbursement or different benefits, different recognition, things like that, that serve as those incentives at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months. And so you can have it brainstorm those types of things, or not just brainstorm it, but come up with the new policy. Like, if this is what we're going to do now, then at 30 days, this is what we do and how we do it. And it can then go communicate that out to, or you can communicate that out to all of the managers that we want this approach to be company wide. So it can take your ideas, help you brainstorm them, help you tweak and polish them, and help you set out the communication plan for how do we then roll this out to everybody. And what you can even ask it before you roll out a new program, what pushback am I going to get? Because if you say, oh, we're going to have pizza parties on the first Friday of every month, there's going to be the pushback of what about the gluten-free people and what about the people that don't like pizza, and so you can also ask it for that pushback, or not just the ideas, but what could go wrong, what am I missing, that type of thing as well. So Holly, what else, what are some more ways that folks can start using AI tools?
Yeah, I love that. And I want to piggyback real quick off of what you just shared about how, like the contrarian, so to speak, of how to navigate it. One of the
Yeah.
things I do when I ask the prompt back or it gives me something, I say, okay, rate this on a scale of 1 to 10 and let me know what I should fix. And it always comes back with like, oh, well, this, I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me that when I first asked? But and then I iteration, we haven't really talked about that, is really important. It's not taking the first thing, we talked about that, but it could be different things. Or you might go, if you have access to two tools, you may do it in one tool and then compare it in the other and go, actually both of these work, because they all have a different flavor, so to speak. And so that's another thing to think about. But I found rating it, or get this, as close to 90% or 100% as you can make it, and it comes out with even more brilliant ideas that aren't just the standard canned, and it helps you get to
Yes.
your results quicker. So that's just another quick tip on that. um,
Yeah.
I use it as a thinking partner, and like a collaboration partner. So whatever you're putting in there, it's kind of, I almost hate to use the term, but garbage in, garbage out. So the better the prompt we have, the better the outcome that we get from the start, and less iteration we have to do. And in the past, I worked in medical sales and marketing and would have to deal with some really difficult conversations, and in leadership. And I found AI to be really helpful to help me have conversations around how to have a difficult conversation. Has anybody
Yeah.
here ever had had to make a difficult conversation that you wanted to avoid because you just didn't know how to do it? If you
Yes.
put that in the chat, if you've ever had that experience, you may not want to, but
Yes.
I know I had, and I found AI to be really helpful for me to talk about boundaries. Maybe it was somebody that I need to have a conversation with. I need to make sure that I'm doing it responsibly as a leader,
Mm,
and maybe that's just not my strong suit, but I can use this tool to help me navigate that conversation and really go, okay, this is what's happening. Now, again, don't put their full name in, but this is what's happening. This is what I need them to do. Help me write a clear boundary to have this difficult conversation. And so it can help map that out for you. And many of us weren't taught how to actually say it. They say, go do a boundary. You're like, yeah, but how? What does that actually look like?
yes.
AI can help you do that, and other difficult conversations you might have, whether it's an employee that you're having to let go, or it's some other difficult conversation. It can be as specific as you can without putting privacy data into it, and then see what it comes up with. It may just be a jumping board, but it can be a
Yeah.
thought partner with you and really cut that time down.
Yeah. So a couple thoughts on what you just said. You mentioned boundaries and things. The word that we keep talking about with our leaders is expectations.
Mm.
The staff today, the new workforce, is missing the mark on a lot of things, whether it's punctuality or professionalism, which we all know is subjective, but we have to sometimes communicate the expectations that are unwritten or our own definition or our company's definition of professionalism. So that's not easy for managers to. It's like, how do I get this person to quit being late? or I don't want to use the punitive, if you're late one more time approach, but I also can't bonus them if they're on time. I don't have enough incentive bonus to change their behavior in that way. So, what else can I do? What would that conversation sound like? You can role play with AI if you tell it like this person is kind of like this, or if you know their disc style, for example, you can say this person is this way. And as you're using AI for a thought partner, I used to type it all out. I used to say, I am, in this situation and help me in this way. And then somebody goes, there's a voice button and there's a little microphone on almost every one of these tools. There's a little microphone button and you can just talk. Now you got to be careful if your door's open and people can hear you. But if you're in a place where you can just talk to it or in your car or walking down the hall, just da 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 da, da, here's my situation and what are your thoughts? And it will either type or talk back to you. So now AI has gotten really cool where you can have conversation. And also I use it personally too. Right? Like if a family member is frustrating me or I don't know how to respond to a difficult situation or something like that with a spouse, with a child, with a parent, you can absolutely talk through it with that and it'll give you different scenarios, different advice of how to handle it. Sometimes I say, well, how are they likely to respond? If I'm going to come to them in this way, how are they likely to respond so that it prepares me for that response as best it can? What are three possible ways that they're going to respond and how can I be ready for that or not back down? A lot of managers today, they are not equipped to handle difficult conversations. They do not feel confident doing that. A lot of managers today are conflict avoidant and they're not addressing issues with the workforce. And we cannot continue that. So even if you are good at this and you're like, yeah, yeah, I got this one, maybe encourage some of your supervisors and managers that are letting stuff slide, right? They're letting people get away with things that the better performers do not appreciate them letting other people get away with it. So really encouraging them to say, hey, if you need to have that difficult conversation or set that boundary or expectation, use AI to prepare for that and to run some scenarios and to build that confidence. That's the point is we want to build the competence of how do I do this? And then the confidence of I've got this, I'm going to do this and it's going to be just fine. Right. So there's some ways to think about it as your own coach, right? So we say a thought partner, that could be strategy and thinking of different ways, but it can also be your coach or your person that you're coaching. It can be their personal coach if you don't know how to teach them to be stronger, for example. So just one other idea. But other thoughts, Holly?
Well, I actually heard a stat recently that said when you one day of not having a difficult conversation is equal to 7 days pay. So if you are, yeah, I was like, whoa, probably the magnitude of the difficult conversation, but it doesn't necessarily just only give you time back. It also could be a financial benefit to learn how to
Yeah,
do this and have this as a thinking partner to support you as you have that. And it can make a really big difference on, if your team knows you should be having that difficult conversation, how that impacts morale, being able to do it effectively, efficiently, you will notice that change and feeling more confident in being able to
right.
deliver those.
Absolutely. Now, I've got a special surprise for you guys. Holly put together a one pager in our vault. So I'm going to pop that in the chat here. And if you go email, put your email into the vault, it's going to email you access to our treasure trove of downloadable tools and templates, all kinds of retention resources. And you are the very first to see this hot off the presses AI tool. It's a one pager that gives you some ideas for use, the responsible kind of principles that you need to keep in mind. And it's a really great sheet that you might want to share with all the leaders across your organization as well. So on there, it's got ways to communicate more effectively, how to have those difficult conversations. There's all kinds of those tips and tricks too. So yeah, did we miss any, Holly? Some more you want to talk about?
Just on that note, in it has how to prompt. Oftentimes people think just a generic prompt is going to work, but the more specific you are with the best type of prompt. So what we created in there is how to do an effective prompt on 3 different categories to really support you. To the focus is getting you back time, right? So we developed 9 specific prompts that you curate for you, and it really is that garbage in, garbage out, or whatever the highest level prompt you have gives you the better results, which makes you not have to iterate as much, which will save you time. So if you're thinking, oh, I've already done prompts before, when people get a hold of my prompts, they're like, oh, I have not been doing it right. And we have a lot of
Yes.
questions, so no judgment, but here to support, right? So it's a
Right.
really helpful tool.
Yeah. And some of you already know this, but I love to, in my prompts, tell it who to act like. Right. So if you're doing something with marketing, act like a marketing expert and do this or tell me this or draft this. I have even asked it. Now, you're not supposed to act like it is your attorney or your CPA or anything. But before I met with my attorney and before I met with my CPA, I asked it, act like an attorney and tell me what I need to know about this situation. Or I was just recently working on uh, wills and trusts and things like that, and I don't know that area. So I said, "What questions should I ask?" And it was really great to help me understand. In fact, it gave me a bunch of jargon that I didn't understand, like, oh, it's a grantor or a non-grantor, and I said, what is the difference? Talk to me like I'm 5, you know, and it kind of broke down a lot of that language. And then I felt much more confident going into that meeting with an attorney and then into my meeting with my tax accountant. And I felt like I understood a little bit more of that and had good questions to ask too, as well. So that can work to your advantage. So good times. Some other things that we talk about too are if you're working on stay interviews. Now we have a guide in the vault of stay interview questions, and it's all tied back to our employee retention ecosystem model. So if you haven't seen our new and updated stay interview questions and that resource in there, definitely check that out too. But if you have certain problems in your organization that you want to address in a round of stay interviews or a listening tour, sometimes we call it, when your executive team goes around and listens to the front line, you could have it draft those questions and make sure that they are open-ended questions and not just yes or no questions, and that type of thing as well. So it can also take the data. So if you're going to go ask people questions, whether it's from surveys, like quantitative number-based surveys or qualitative interview, focus group conversations. I just worked with a group that they did a whole round of stay interviews, and the HR team kind of wrote down the answers as the person was talking. Well, then we threw that into AI and said, find the trends, find the outliers. What can we glean from all of these answers? So it's really great at looking at reports and analyzing different, either, like I said, the trends or the outliers. You don't want to miss either one of those. And we might, as humans, that's what we do. And we get pulled in when you read. I've always done this. Whenever you read employee surveys, you get stuck on that one that you're like, oh, I know who said that. And you know, you get really just kind of foggy with all the other data and you just zero in on that one. And this is going to help you prevent yourself from getting stuck on one of those answers. So all right. Now, some folks in here, are a 3 and a 4, Holly. How do we take this to the next level as well? Because one of the things, and I'm struggling with this as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, is I'm like, well, I want to use AI more, but I don't know what I don't know. I don't know how to ask it something until you, Holly, say, oh, you can use it for this. And it's like, well, that's brilliant, right? Like a friend of mine said she does her travel itinerary of every trip. Tell me where I should go, when, and when's the best time to avoid crowds in that town. And I was like, well, that's brilliant. So now I use it for all of my travel itinerary, but I wouldn't have thought of that until my friend told me. So what are some other ideas that folks can use this for, or take it to that next level if they don't know what they don't know?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I would say, going back to what is the problem you're trying to solve, is a question you can ask yourself is, what is a task I do repeatedly? Because we're talking about
Mm,
how do we get your time back, right? So what is something in your daily work? Maybe it's charting, maybe it, again, privacy, make sure that you're focusing on what you need to, but what are the things that you're doing? Are you answering your emails in the morning and it takes you an hour to do that? Could AI help you with your emails to make it more
yep.
effective and efficient? So really, before you go into what's the next thing, because a lot of people think they hear, okay, generative AI, they may not think that, but they're like, I've been using ChatGPT, I must be doing agentic AI. Most people think they need to go to that level to be efficient. You can be efficient with really basic tools without having to invest a whole lot. So
Yeah.
really look at that and follow yourself for a week and go, what am I doing over and over again? Start tackling that first, and you'll be amazed by what time you get back. And then go to the next one that came up next on your list. And by just doing that, you'll get your time back, and then focus on your team with that time, right? Like what, then
Mhm.
dream about what would you do if you had that much time left, and you'll get really motivated to find those pockets of time that you can use AI for.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're using Outlook or Gmail or whatnot, I would say one of the easiest ones is using it in your inbox, of having it draft the response for you. I know in Gmail, it kind of gives me three different possible responses when an email comes in. It says, do you want to say yes, no, or maybe? If somebody asks me a question, and it will draft that. Now I still have to tweak it and make it my own, but it has saved a ton of time for me. So make sure that you have that turned on, or that you're watching it or starting to use it, because that can definitely do that as well.
Oh, and I got one
So,
more real quick.
yeah, yeah.
Perplexity is one of my favorite AI tools for research. So if you are needing to make sure things are fact-based, or maybe you looked at something and you were thinking, well, is this AI or not? Because a lot of people are skeptical of AI and going, I don't know if this is or not, or does this sound like it? I will
Mhm.
use Perplexity to fact check things that I'm even receiving, or before I put it out there, and it will tell me, actually, no, this is not the data, or that's more exaggerated. And if you're highly regulated, you want to make sure you have the most current data. It's a very functional tool for research. So if you were in this room and need to do research, even like Cara said, research for team building or research for what's happening, or statistics, Perplexity
Mhm.
is one of my favorite tools for that.
Yeah. And if you need to create any content, if you need to give a presentation, I'm loving Notebook LM, that is a part of Gemini. So if you have the Gemini and the Google Suite access, then definitely check out Notebook LM, because you can actually feed it all of the resources, like your own company policies and your company information, or handbooks or SOPs, or anything that you want to feed it, and then it will create, whether it's a presentation, or if you guys have to do, I don't know, I mean, plans of correction or training on certain compliance things, or OSHA issues, or FMLA, or whatever. You can put the policies in, and those items, and then it will create the PowerPoint for you, or it will create slides and your bullet points, your talking points for that kind of training and communication that needs to go out. So you can look into that type of tool as well. Now, some of you are, I'm going to wait for my company to tell me what to do, right? A lot of folks, especially in leadership positions, are kind of sitting and waiting and saying, well, I don't want to make the wrong move. And so I just want my company to tell me what to do and how to use it. Where the other end of that spectrum is, oh, teaching myself. I'm learning all this. I'm testing it. I'm trying it out. Hopefully, staying within the guardrails that are necessary. But I'm actually turning around and teaching my company. Hey, we should use it for this. Hey, we should create this. We should, make our own bot. In each of those systems, you can create your own chat GPT. It's called custom GPTs, or in Gemini, it's called a gem. But think of it as its own bot that is taught how to respond. Here's the information I want you to use. And some companies are even making almost like that. What's it called when, like, I guess maybe it's a bot, but when the person like pops up in the corner and answers your question, kind of a customer service type of thing. Some companies are starting to feed all their company policies and company SOPs into a bot, and then giving that out to the employees for access for answering questions, so they don't have to bother HR or bother the leaders quite as much. They can at least look it up themselves first, and usually get the right answers. Again, got to kind of test that out. It takes time for them to get it right, but I'm telling you, if you're sitting right now thinking, oh, well, if it takes time, if it's not going to be right out the gate, then I don't want to use it. But it takes time to teach it how to be right, and to correct it. It will say, is this right? Is this wrong? And ask you for feedback in a lot of these tools. So the more you teach it, the more you tell it, the better and more valuable it gets later. In fact, it will start to sound like you. That's the beauty of it. If with the emails and things, the more that you go in and tweak and tell it how you want it to respond, more formal, less formal, more humor, less humor, no sarcasm, whatever you tell it to do, it is going to learn that over time and become more and more valuable to you. So I will say, though, that depending on where you sit in your company, just what I'm seeing is at a lot of companies, nobody owns AI yet. I mean, the HR team is trying to figure out some things, especially the guardrails. If you have an IT leader, of course, they're on top of some things, but they're just going to be looking at systems, not like manager usage of it. And so the way that managers and leaders are using AI, you can become the front runner there. You can become so valuable to your company. We hear about, oh, AI is taking these jobs away. Well, at least not for my healthcare friends. That ain't gonna happen for quite a while. But right now, what your company needs you to do is to try it out and to learn some efficiencies with it, and then share those best practices with others, to get more efficiency across the company as well. So I encourage you to kind of step up and own it, and then share those best practices to expedite the adoption that everyone else will hopefully have. All right. So, okay. Now, before we go, I have to talk about the human side here, because Holly, some people are pushing back and saying, yeah, but using tools like this is going to make people think less, you know, lose their critical thinking and use the human connection and authenticity and all of those types of things, which I understand. But I'm of the mindset that AI can help us stay connected to people potentially. So what might be some uses there, or a perspective there?
Well, I'll say for me, I'll share my own experience. I've been using it since it came out, like since we had access to ChatGPT. And what it's helped me do is ask better questions. Because when I first
Yes.
started, I was like, that's not doing, I'm like, oh, I need to ask that differently. Oh, I get, so it's helped me to be a clearer communicator, because I know, oh, this question actually gets the result of what I'm looking for. It's helped me with my communication. It's helped me with being able to be more present with people, because well, I've even used it at night to declutter my mind, to be able to say, I'm going to offload all of these ideas. I'll use the voice clip like Cara suggested earlier. It will help me clear out everything that is swirling in my head that I have to do. And I've put it somewhere that I can go access later and go, okay, what else was on my list? What else do I need to do when we're on the run and on the go? Many times
Right.
we're doing the pockets of time. So that is where I got my time back, but it also has helped with my own critical thinking, because I've been using it responsibly. That's why teaching responsible AI is really important, where we say keep the human in the loop. keep your critical thinking. And if we go that route, we won't lose the way we do it. But it's about us being self-responsible first and then moving outward. That's a part of ethical AI. So we have the human side of it, and we also have the environmental side of it. Do you mind if I briefly kind of share about that side of it?
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great. What's
So
going on?
for the environmental impact, you may there's some mixed reviews on using AI because of what the news puts out for what the impacts on environments are. So I'm not going to come and say there are no impacts and data centers don't exist. Like that's not fair. That's not real. But what I have seen, and I work in this field specifically, and I have toured data centers and heard from them. There are some that are doing it really well and creating sustainable innovation. And I hope that that's the future, right? But we're going to have policies in place to have to regulate that. And then there's some that just simply are not, that are putting damage out into the world. But it's not as polarizing as what the media is telling us. So if somebody pushes back in that space, well, I'm not going to use it because of this. The innovation that is occurring is saving lives, is changing the way we do work. So there's a balance to it. It's acknowledging both sides of it, but the innovation is moving towards sustainability. So that is coming, and some are already implementing it. So I just thought that's important for us to know, because that's what I get pushed back on the most when I hear clients that are bringing it to their company. I don't want to use it because of this.
Right.
Actually, this is what the reality is.
Yeah, and I love your example a minute ago about how it's making you a better communicator. Because at a recent class that I was teaching about generational dynamics and expectations of the new hires where they're missing the mark, somebody said, I cannot believe that I asked a new hire to take out the trash and they took the trash bag out, but they didn't put a new bag in the bin. And this leader was like so upset. And I said, well, did you tell them to put a new bag in the bin? And they said, no. If I say take out the trash, that just includes that. And so we make all these assumptions that another human understands what we want. Well, a guy teaches me real quick that if I only tell it step one and not step two, it is only going to do step one and not assume a step two. And so it actually does clear up some of that confusion, where you will put an instruction in and then you're like, well, that's not what I wanted. And you have to think critically, how do I get what I want? The full step one, step two, step three. How do I build this prompt, this instruction better, more clear, so that I get what I want? And it's the same with leadership, right? It's the same exact thing. If I can't prompt my AI to get it right, then I probably am not instructing my staff to get it right and to fulfill the full expectation, that of the job that I want done, right? So I think that's a very parallel example there of how it can actually help us think more critically, more clearly, more comprehensively, or holistically, of how we are communicating with our folks. And also, I'm seeing it that it helps us personalize our interactions with folks. So, like the recognition, you could say, well, these people are introverts, these people are extroverts. How can I recognize them, in the way that they want to be recognized? And as you teach your bot or your resource, your AI tool, who your team is, then it can help say, well, because Abby is this way, I would recommend this. Your past with her includes this. So again, being very careful with personal information and names and whatnot, but you can say, like, you could put their title, right? My marketing person, my COO, my partner, whatever that is, and get some customized interaction recommendations as well. So
I'd love to share on a quick note on that. I was
yeah.
sitting next to my husband and he voiced into his chat GPT, what would be the perfect gift for my wife? And so I got to hear it back and it actually brought me to tears. I was like, that, because it's not like go buy me shoes or something. I mean, it was very genuine to like, it knew me better than I would have said to him. And I was like, yeah, all of that, like that whole list. So if you're thinking of that for the people that you work with, your teams, and think about how seen they, instead of a Starbucks gift card, if that's not their jam, I'm a Coke Zero girly. I give away the Starbucks gift cards, but to feel seen like that, Oh,
Yes,
get gold bars and gold stars from your team if you have that.
that's it. That's